The stars had never seemed so beautiful to Ambassador Yunji as she stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic shuttle. Earth hung behind them, a blue marble growing smaller with each passing minute. Ahead, the massive alien vessel waited in the darkness of space, its hull gleaming with lights that pulsed in patterns humans had never seen before. "They call themselves the Vorash," her assistant said, checking the data pad. "They say they come in peace. They want to share technology with us." Yunji nodded slowly. First contact. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries. Now it was happening, and she was the one chosen to represent Earth. The weight of it pressed on her shoulders. The Vorash ship was enormous, easily 10 times the size of Earth's largest space station. As their shuttle approached, a docking bay opened like a mouth in the alien hull. Lights guided them in, and within minutes they had landed on the smooth metal floor. The Vorash who greeted them stood on 4 legs, with 2 upper limbs that seemed designed for fine manipulation. Their heads were broad and flat with multiple eyes arranged in a circular pattern. They wore clothing that shimmered with colors that hurt to look at directly. "Welcome," the lead Vorash said through a translation device. "We are pleased to meet humanity. We have observed your species for some time. You show great promise." The words sounded friendly, but something in the alien's tone made Yunji's skin crawl. She pushed the feeling aside. This was too important to let paranoia ruin it. Back on Earth, Admiral Tae-sung watched the diplomatic feed from the command center of Earth Defense Fleet headquarters. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Around him, dozens of officers monitored every sensor, every communication channel. "Sir, the aliens are offering technology samples," one officer reported. "Medical advances, energy systems, faster-than-light drive components." "Too generous," Tae-sung muttered. His second-in-command, Captain Bo-ra, stood beside him. She was younger, sharp-featured, with a reputation for seeing through enemy tactics before they unfolded. "You don't trust them," Bo-ra said. It wasn't a question. "Would you trust someone who showed up at your door offering everything you ever wanted?" Tae-sung asked. "What do they want in return?" The answer came hours later. Dr. Haiwan, Earth's leading physicist, examined the alien technology samples in her laboratory. She was a woman who lived for puzzles, and the Vorash technology was the greatest puzzle she'd ever encountered. "This is incredible," she told her team, her fingers dancing over holographic displays. "Their power systems are at least a century ahead of ours. But look at this." She highlighted a section of the alien energy core. "See these weak points? The whole system depends on a specific frequency resonance. If you disrupt it, the entire thing shuts down. It's like they built a fortress but left the key under the doormat." Her assistant frowned. "Why would they show us that?" "They wouldn't," Haiwan said slowly, "unless they don't think we're smart enough to figure it out. Or they don't plan to let us use this knowledge." On the Vorash flagship, Yunji was beginning to understand that her instincts had been correct. The aliens were polite, but there was a coldness beneath their words. They spoke of partnership, but their questions were all about Earth's defenses, population centers, resource deposits. "We should return to Earth," she told her team quietly. "Something is wrong here." But before they could leave, alarms began to sound throughout the alien ship. Yunji ran to a viewport and felt her blood turn to ice. Earth's orbital stations were exploding. She watched in horror as 3 massive structures, each home to thousands of people, burst into flames and debris. The Vorash ships that had been hidden on the far side of the moon were now attacking, their weapons tearing through Earth's defenses like paper. "You treacherous," Yunji started to shout, but Vorash guards grabbed her and her team, forcing them into a detention cell. On Earth, chaos erupted across every command center. Admiral Tae-sung's worst fears had come to life in the worst possible way. "Status report," he barked. "Orbital stations Alpha, Gamma, and Delta are destroyed," an officer reported, her voice shaking. Death toll estimated at 15,000. The colony ship Horizon was hit during departure. 10,000 civilians lost. Captain Bo-ra's hands clenched into fists. She had friends on the horizon, families, children who would never reach the colony world they'd been promised. "The Vorash are broadcasting," another officer said, putting it on screen. The alien who appeared was clearly a military commander, larger than the diplomats they'd met, with scars across its broad head. "Humans of Earth," it said, "you are hereby ordered to surrender your planet. Your defenses are primitive, your weapons are toys. Submit now and we will allow most of you to live as workers in our empire. Resist and we will exterminate you completely. You have one planetary rotation to decide. The screen went dark. The command center was silent. Every eye turned to Admiral Taesung. The admiral stood slowly. His face was carved from stone, but his eyes burned with a fury that made even his own officers step back. Send a response, he said quietly. Tell them we have made our decision, sir. The communications officer asked. Tell them no, Taesung said. Tell them that they have made the worst mistake in their species' history. Tell them that humanity does not surrender. Tell them that we will fight until every last one of their ships is burning wreckage. Tell them that they attacked the wrong planet. Captain Bora stepped forward. Orders, sir? Mobilize everything, Taesung said. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. Contact General Kyung-soo. I want ground forces ready for invasion defense. Get Dr. Haiwan on the line. Those technology samples they gave us. She's going to turn them into weapons and find out where they're keeping Ambassador Yoonji. We're getting our people back. Across Earth, billions of people watched the same message, the Vorash ultimatum, the demand for surrender, and they watched Admiral Taesung's response broadcast on every channel in every language. They came to our world in disguise, Taesung said, his voice steady and cold. They pretended to want peace while planning murder. They killed 15,000 of our people in the first strike. They believe we will surrender because they are stronger. They believe we are primitive because our technology is less advanced. They believe we will bow because we are afraid. He paused, and when he spoke again, every word carried the weight of absolute conviction. They are wrong. We will show them what humans become when you threaten our home. We will show them what happens when you underestimate us. We will show them that strength is not just about technology. It's about will. It's about refusing to quit. It's about making our enemies regret they ever learned our name. The broadcast ended, but the message had been heard. Across the planet, in every city and town, humans looked up at the stars with new eyes. Not with fear, but with anger. Not with desperation, but with determination. The Vorash had made their fatal mistake. They had attacked Earth. They had awakened something that had driven humanity from caves to the stars. Something that had survived every catastrophe, every enemy, every challenge thrown at them. They had awakened humanity's will to survive at any cost. And now the Vorash would learn what that meant. The first 48 hours after the Vorash attack changed Earth forever. Every nation, every military force, every resource was now directed toward a single purpose: survival and revenge. General Kyung-soo stood in the Global Command Center, a facility buried 2 kilometers beneath the mountains of South Korea. Around him, holographic displays showed troop movements across every continent. He was the supreme military commander of Earth's combined forces, a position that hadn't existed until 3 days ago. The Vorash are landing ground forces in 12 locations, his tactical officer reported. They're targeting major population centers: Beijing, New York, Mumbai, São Paulo. Let them land, Kyung-soo said calmly. Colonel Jaemin has prepared a welcome for them. On the outskirts of Beijing, Colonel Jaemin watched through his binoculars as Vorash dropships descended. The aliens had chosen an industrial district, probably thinking the humans would hesitate to damage their own infrastructure. They were learning the first lesson about humanity. Nothing was more valuable than freedom. Hold position, Jaemin ordered his troops. Wait until they commit. The Vorash soldiers emerged from their ships, tall creatures in powered armor that made them look invincible. They began to advance toward the city, their weapons scanning for targets. They moved in tight formation, confident, professional. They never saw the trap until it was too late. The ground beneath them exploded, not from bombs but from collapsing tunnels that dropped the Vorash into underground chambers filled with fire. As they tried to retreat, buildings on either side came down, walls of concrete and steel crushing the aliens beneath them. Now, Jaemin shouted. His soldiers emerged from hidden positions, firing weapons that the Vorash hadn't expected. Thanks to Dr. Haiwan's research, every human weapon had been modified. The frequencies that disrupted alien technology were built into every bullet, every missile, every explosive. The Vorash armor began to fail. Their shields flickered and died. Suddenly, they were just soldiers fighting soldiers, and humans had been perfecting that art for thousands of years. In space, Captain Bora commanded the frigate Defiant as it engaged a Vorash cruiser. Her ship was smaller, slower and less powerful than the alien vessel. By every logical measure, she should have retreated. Instead, she attacked. "Target their sensor array," Bora ordered. "Full barrage." "Captain, that won't penetrate their shields," her weapons officer protested. "I don't need it to," Bora said. "Fire!" The missiles streaked toward the Vorash ship. As expected, the shields stopped them easily. But the explosions created a massive electromagnetic burst, exactly as Dr. Haiwan had calculated. The Vorash sensors went blind for exactly 8 seconds. 8 seconds was all Bora needed. Emergency thrust full power. "Ram them!" Her crew's eyes went wide, but they obeyed. The Defiant accelerated directly at the Vorash cruiser, moving faster than the aliens thought possible for a ship its size. By the time the Vorash sensors cleared, it was too late to dodge. The Defiant struck the cruiser's midsection like a spear. Both ships' shields failed on impact, and the smaller human vessel buried itself into the alien hull. Alarms screamed as atmosphere vented, but Bora was already moving. "Boarding teams, go. Everyone else, evacuate to the assault pods." What the Vorash didn't know was that the Defiant had been modified specifically for this tactic. The front section was designed to break away, forming a boarding bridge. Human Marines poured into the enemy ship, fighting room by room, deck by deck. Bora led from the front, her combat armor making her look like a demon from Earth's old legends. The Vorash tried to stop them, but humans fought with a ferocity that the aliens had never encountered. Every human knew someone who had died in the first attack. Every human was fighting for their home. The Vorash cruiser's commander tried to self-destruct his ship, but Bora's team reached the bridge first. Within an hour, Earth had captured its first enemy vessel intact. In her laboratory, Dr. Haiwan worked without sleep, her eyes bloodshot but her mind sharp. The captured Vorash technology was spread across dozens of workstations, and her team was reverse engineering everything. "The shield systems are actually quite simple once you understand them," she explained to Admiral Tae-sung via video link. "Engineer Mi-sun and I have developed a counter system. It won't make our ships as strong as theirs, but it will make us much harder to kill." "How long until deployment?" Tae-sung asked. "Mi-sun is already installing the first units on the defense fleet," Hee-won said. 48 hours and every ship will have them." "But that's not the best part." She pulled up a new schematic. "Remember how I said their systems have a critical weakness? I've weaponized it. This device will shut down every Vorash system within a 10-kilometer radius. Shields, weapons, life support, everything." Tae-sung leaned forward. "How many can you build?" "Give me the resources and I'll build thousands." Lieutenant Sang-ho pulled his fighter into a tight spiral, dodging Vorash plasma fire by mere meters. He was one of Earth's best pilots, and right now he was proving why. His squadron had been outnumbered 3-1 when the battle started. Now 5 Vorash fighters were burning debris. "Sang-ho, you've got 2 more on your tail," his wingman shouted. "I know," Sang-ho replied calmly. He aimed his fighter directly at an asteroid, accelerating to maximum speed. The Vorash followed, their larger ships slower to maneuver. At the last second, Sang-ho flipped his fighter and fired his thrusters in reverse, killing his forward momentum. He dropped like a stone while the Vorash ships, unable to stop, slammed into the asteroid at full speed. "That's 7, Sang-ho said. "Who wants to go for 10? His squadron cheered. They were tired, damaged, and outnumbered, but they were winning. The Vorash had better ships, but humans had something more important. They were fighting for their survival, and that made them unpredictable, creative, and absolutely relentless. Back in orbit, the Vorash fleet commander stared at his tactical display in disbelief. In 48 hours, his forces had lost 30% of their ground troops, 12 ships, and countless fighters. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to surrender. Instead, they were fighting back with a savagery that terrified even his most experienced warriors. They used tactics that made no sense: ramming, boarding actions, suicide runs, traps within traps. They turned their own cities into killing grounds. They modified their weapons faster than his scientists could adapt, and now reports were coming in that human ships had shields. How was that possible? They hadn't had shields before the attack. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human admiral," his communications officer said. "Play it." Admiral Tae-sung appeared on the screen. He looked tired, but his eyes were cold and full of purpose. "Vorash Commander," Tae-sung said, "you gave us 1 day to surrender. That time has passed. Now I'm giving you 1 chance. Leave our solar system immediately. Take your ships and go." "Never come back," the Vorash commander laughed. You think you can threaten me? You've won a few small battles. We have reinforcements coming. You have made a mistake, Taesung interrupted. You came to Earth thinking we were weak. You thought our kindness was weakness. You thought our desire for peace meant we couldn't wage war. You were wrong about everything. Every hour you stay, more of your soldiers die. Every day you fight, we get stronger. We're learning from you. We're adapting. We're becoming better at killing you than you are at killing us. The Vorash commander's confidence faltered slightly. We will crush you. We have crushed 100 species. You are nothing special. Then you haven't been paying attention, Taesung said. Because we're still here, and we're coming for you. The transmission ended. The Vorash commander stared at the dark screen, feeling something he hadn't felt in decades of conquest. Doubt. On Earth, in orbit, on bases across the solar system, humanity prepared for the next phase. They had survived the first strike. They had adapted to the enemy. They had learned to fight back. Now it was time to show the Vorash what humans did to those who threatened their home. It was time to stop defending and start destroying. The third week of the war marked the turning point. The Vorash had brought their reinforcements, doubling their fleet size. They expected this show of force to break human resistance. Instead, they found an enemy that had transformed from defenders into hunters. Admiral Taesung stood on the bridge of the newly completed battleship Retribution. It was humanity's first true warship, built in record time using both human engineering and captured Vorash technology. Engineer Mi-sun had personally overseen the shield installation, working 30-hour days until it was perfect. All ships report ready, Captain Bora announced. She had been promoted and given command of the assault wing after her successful capture of the Vorash cruiser. Now she commanded 15 ships, each one crewed by people who had lost someone in the first attack. Lieutenant Sang-ho confirms fighter. Squadrons are in position. The tactical officer, added Taesung, studied the holographic display, showing the Vorash fleet. They were positioned near Mars, using it as a staging ground for their operations. They thought they were safe there. They were about to learn otherwise. Signal from Dr. Hai-wan, the communications officer said. The weapon is armed and ready. Taesung took a deep breath. This was the moment. Everything humanity had built, everything they had learned, everything they had sacrificed came down to the next few hours. All units, he said quietly, execute Operation Hammer. The human fleet emerged from behind Earth's moon, accelerating at speeds that made the Vorash sensors question their readings. The aliens scrambled to respond, but they were too slow. Humans had learned to move fast, strike hard, and never give the enemy time to think. Lieutenant Sang-ho led his fighter squadron in first, diving through the Vorash defensive screen like arrows through paper. His ships were smaller, faster, and now equipped with shields that could take hits the old fighters would have died from. But more importantly, his pilots had something the Vorash didn't: rage that had been refined into pure focus. Break and attack, Sang-ho ordered. Target the cruisers. Ignore the fighters unless they're on your tail. His squadron split into pairs, each team selecting a target. The Vorash fighters tried to intercept, but the humans were too quick, too aggressive. They fought like they had nothing to lose because in their minds they had already lost everything that mattered. Now they were just collecting the debt. Sang-ho locked onto a Vorash cruiser and armed his new weapons. Dr. Hai-wan called them disruptor torpedoes, and they were about to prove their worth. He fired a spread of 6, then immediately broke away, trusting his wingman to cover him. The torpedoes hit the Vorash shields and didn't explode. Instead, they burrowed through, their special frequency allowing them to pass through as if the shields didn't exist. Once inside, they detonated against the bare hull. The cruiser's entire side erupted in flame. Secondary explosions rippled through the ship as systems failed catastrophically. Within seconds, it was drifting, powerless and broken. It works, Sang-ho shouted. All units, the disruptors work. Light them up. Captain Bora's assault wing came in next, their ships in a tight formation that the Vorash had learned to fear. She had become famous for her boarding tactics, but today's mission was different. Today was about pure destruction. Target the mothership, she ordered. All weapons, maximum power. The Vorash mothership was their fleet's pride, a massive vessel that served as both command center and symbol of their power. It hung in space like a dark moon, bristling with weapons and protected by shields that had never been breached. Bora was about to change that. Her wing opened fire simultaneously, hundreds of missiles and energy beams converging on a single point of the mothership's shields. The Vorash shields held as expected, but that wasn't the real attack. That was just the distraction. While the Vorash focused on Bora's wing, a single small ship approached from below. It was a modified cargo vessel, unremarkable, flying without shields or weapons active. The Vorash sensors ignored it, categorizing it as debris or a civilian ship fleeing the battle. They realized their mistake too late. The cargo ship, piloted by a volunteer crew of 3, attached itself to the mothership's hull. Before the Vorash could respond, the crew activated the massive device they'd been carrying. Dr. Hywan's masterpiece, a plasma disruptor so powerful it could shut down an entire capital ship. The device activated, and the mothership died. Every system, every weapon, every shield and engine and life support unit shut down simultaneously. The massive vessel went dark, dead in space, its thousands of crew suddenly trapped in a tomb. But Bora wasn't done. She had volunteered for this mission knowing it might be one way. She had lost her best friend on the colony ship Horizon, had watched children die in the first attack. This was personal. All wings firing Solution Alpha, she said calmly. Time to send a message. The human ships opened fire on the helpless mothership. It couldn't dodge, couldn't defend, couldn't fight back. The Vorash had made it a symbol of their power. Now humans were making it a symbol of something else. Retribution. The mothership broke apart under the sustained bombardment, its hull fracturing, its decks exposed to vacuum. Escape pods launched, but not nearly enough for the crew size. Thousands of Vorash died, and watching from other ships, their commanders finally understood the lesson humanity was teaching. You don't attack Earth and expect mercy. On the ground, Colonel Jamin was fighting a different kind of battle. The Vorash had committed more ground forces to Beijing, determined to capture at least one major human city. They came in waves, thousands of soldiers in advanced armor supported by war machines that towered over buildings. Jamin watched them come from his command post. His forces were tired, worn down by weeks of constant fighting. But they were also getting better at killing Vorash with each passing day. They're concentrating on the eastern approach, his second-in-command reported. Good, Jamin said. That's exactly what we want. Have the evacuation teams finished? Yes, sir. All civilians are clear from the eastern sectors. Jamin nodded. Then blow it. The explosives that engineers had been placing for days all detonated at once. Not just buildings, but underground fuel lines, gas mains, industrial chemical storage. The entire eastern sector of Beijing became an inferno that reached toward the sky. The Vorash forces advancing through it didn't stand a chance. Thousands died instantly. The survivors retreated, their formation broken, their confidence shattered. Ground teams advanced, Jamin ordered. No prisoners unless they surrender immediately. And I mean immediately. His soldiers moved forward, battle-hardened troops who had learned to fight the Vorash hand-to-hand when necessary. They showed no mercy, because none had been shown to the 15,000 who died in the first attack. This was war, and war was hell, and the Vorash had chosen to bring that hell to Earth. In space, Admiral Tae-sung watched as half the Vorash fleet burned. The battle had been costly, but the tide had turned decisively. Human losses were heavy, but manageable. Vorash losses were catastrophic. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Vorash flagship, his communications officer reported. They're requesting a ceasefire to discuss terms. Tae-sung almost laughed. Terms? They want to discuss terms? Captain Bora's face appeared on a screen, broadcasting from her ship near the wreckage of the mothership. What should we tell them, Admiral? Tae-sung thought about the orbital stations, the colony ship, the 15,000 dead. He thought about the ultimatum the Vorash had given humanity, surrender or die. He thought about what would have happened if Earth had been weaker, if humans had given up, if they had accepted slavery rather than fight. Tell them we'll accept their surrender, Tae-sung said. Unconditional. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon, they lay down arms immediately, or we continue until not a single Vorash vessel remains in our solar system. The response came quickly. The Vorash were not ready to surrender. They still had half a fleet. They still had reinforcements that could be called. Very well, Tae-sung said. General Kyung-soo, status on the ground? We've pushed them back from every major population center, Kyung-soo reported via hologram. They're retreating to their landing zones. We can contain them there. Don't contain them, Taesung said. Destroy them. Dr. Haiwan, how many disruptor weapons do we have in reserve? Enough to kill what's left of their fleet twice over, Haiwan replied. She looked exhausted but triumphant. And I've got something new. A virus that will spread through their computer systems. Once it's in one ship, it jumps to every ship in their network. Upload it to one of their captured vessels and send it back to them as a gift, Taesung ordered. Lieutenant Sang-ho, listening from his fighter, felt a grim satisfaction. The Vorash had thought humans were primitive. They had thought human kindness was weakness. They had learned the truth too late. Humans didn't fight like other species. They didn't follow predictable patterns. They learned, adapted, improvised. They turned their enemies' strengths into weaknesses and their own limitations into advantages. And most importantly, when you threatened their home, they became the most dangerous thing in the galaxy, humans with nothing left to lose and everything to avenge. The battle for Mars ended with human victory. The Vorash reinforcements never arrived, and across the galaxy, the Vorash sent a new diplomatic envoy 4 weeks after the Battle of Mars. This time they didn't come with threats or ultimatums. They came with white flags and pleas for peace, Ambassador. Yoonji sat across from the alien diplomats in a conference room aboard the human space station Unity. She had been rescued 3 weeks earlier when Captain Bora's forces captured the Vorash diplomatic vessel. The aliens had kept her alive as a potential hostage, but that plan had died along with half their fleet. The Vorash diplomat who spoke was different from the ones she'd met during first contact. This one looked tired, defeated, scared. Good, Yoonji thought. Now they know how it feels. Ambassador, the Vorash said through its translator, we come to sue for peace. The conflict between our species has been costly for both sides. Surely we can find a resolution. Yoonji looked at the alien with cold eyes. She had spent weeks as a prisoner, watching her captors celebrate the deaths of humans. She had listened to them boast about how they would enslave Earth. She had heard them laugh about the colony ship full of children they'd destroyed. You want peace? She asked quietly. Yes. We propose a withdrawal from your solar system. We will leave immediately and... No. The Vorash diplomats looked at each other, confused. No? But surely this is what you want. We leave, you have your system back. The war ends, Yoonji leaned forward. You came to our world pretending to want peace. You studied our defenses while smiling at us. You murdered 15,000 of our people in a surprise attack. You bombed a ship full of children. You threatened to enslave everyone on Earth, and now you want peace? The situation has changed, the Vorash said carefully. Your species has proven more formidable than we anticipated. Continuing this conflict serves neither of us. You're right about one thing, Yoonji said. The situation has changed, but not the way you think. She stood up. Admiral Taesung wants you to hear Earth's terms directly. A holographic projection activated, showing the Admiral on the bridge of the Retribution. Behind him, through the viewports, the Vorash could see dozens of human warships in formation. Vorash delegation, Taesung said. Ambassador Yoonji speaks with humanity's full authority. I'm here to make our position clear. You asked for peace. The answer is no. The lead Vorash diplomat's eyes widened. But you must see reason. More conflict only leads to more death. You should have thought of that before you attacked us, Taesung replied. You wanted war. You declared war. You started this. And now we're going to finish it. This is madness. We are willing to leave your system. We don't want you to leave our system, Taesung said coldly. We want you extinct. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. The Vorash diplomats began to protest, to argue, to plead. Yoonji let them talk. She had heard enough alien lies to last a lifetime. Finally, she raised her hand for silence. You wanted to know what humans become when you threaten our home? This is your answer. We will hunt down every Vorash ship. We will destroy every Vorash base. We will make your species a lesson to the galaxy. Never attack Earth. The Vorash were escorted back to their ship and released. Taesung had been clear. Let them return to their people. Let them spread the word. Let the galaxy know that humanity was no longer seeking peace. They were seeking revenge. General Kyung-soo authorized the next phase of operations from his command center. The ground war was over. Vorash forces on Earth had been systematically eliminated. Now it was time to take the fight beyond the solar system. All fleet commanders report status, he ordered. Captain Bora's face appeared on screen. Assault wing ready. We have 40 ships fully operational, crews eager to proceed. Lieutenant Sang-ho reported next. Fighter squadrons at full strength. New pilots trained and equipped. We're ready to hunt. Dr. Haiwan's projection showed her in her laboratory, surrounded by weapons and devices that looked like they belonged in a science fiction story, except these were real and they were deadly. The virus is deployed across all captured Vorash vessels, she reported. When they return to their fleet, it will spread automatically. Within hours, their entire network will be compromised. They won't even know it's happening until we activate it. Time to show them what happens when you pick a fight with Earth, Kyung-soo said. The human fleet departed Earth's orbit like a swarm of angry hornets. The Vorash had retreated to their staging ground near Jupiter, thinking the distance would buy them time to regroup. They were wrong. Admiral Taesung led from the front in the retribution. Around him, the newly constructed battleships of humanity's war fleet moved in perfect formation. They weren't as large as Vorash vessels, but they were faster, more maneuverable, and equipped with every dirty trick humans had learned in 2 months of brutal warfare. Vorash fleet detected, the sensor officer announced. They're in defensive formation. Looks like they're expecting us. Of course they are, Taesung said. Bora, deploy your wing on their left flank. Sang-ho, take your fighters high and come down on their command ships. Everyone else with me. We're going straight through the middle. The Vorash fleet opened fire first. Massive energy beams that would have destroyed the old human ships in single hits. But Engineer Misun's shields held, absorbing the impact and dispersing the energy. The human ships shook but kept coming. Return fire, Taesung ordered. All weapons. The space between the two fleets became a hell of energy, explosions, and debris. But this time the humans weren't desperately defending. They were attacking with purpose, with coordination, with rage that had been forged into discipline. Captain Bora's assault wing hit the Vorash flank like a hammer. Her ships weren't trying to outfight the aliens. They were trying to break through to get close to deliver their special cargo. Marines, prepare for boarding actions, she announced. Remember your training. Remember what they did to our people. Show them what humans do to monsters. Her ships crashed into the Vorash defensive line, shields flaring, hulls screaming under the stress. But they broke through and suddenly they were among the enemy ships, too close for the big weapons to track them. Boarding pods launched, attaching to alien hulls like parasites. Inside those pods, human Marines waited. They wore armor designed by human engineers who had studied every weakness in Vorash ships. They carried weapons that Dr. Haiwan had built specifically to kill Vorash. And they had one simple mission: capture the ships or destroy them. Lieutenant Sang-ho's fighter wing came down from above like birds of prey. The Vorash had learned to respect human pilots, but they still hadn't adapted to human tactics. Sang-ho's squadron didn't try to dogfight. They dove straight for the Vorash command ships, their shields absorbing defensive fire, their weapons armed with the disruptor torpedoes that had proven so effective. Target locked, Sang-ho said calmly. Firing. A dozen torpedoes streaked toward the nearest Vorash command ship. The shields tried to stop them but failed, the torpedoes phasing through as if the shields didn't exist. They struck the hull and detonated, and the command ship went dark. That's one, Sang-ho said. Next target. Admiral Taesung watched as his battle plan unfolded perfectly. The Vorash were good fighters, well-trained and well-equipped. But they fought like they'd been fighting for centuries. With logic, with standard tactics, with predictable patterns. Humans fought like humans. With creativity, with rage, with a willingness to do things the enemy would never expect. Dr. Haiwan, Taesung said, activate the virus. Across the battlefield, every captured Vorash ship that humans had sent back suddenly activated. The virus spread through the alien network like wildfire, jumping from ship to ship through their communication systems. Within minutes, half the Vorash fleet was experiencing system failures. Weapons stopped firing. Shields flickered and died. Engines sputtered. Life support became unreliable. The Vorash fleet, which had been giving as good as it got, suddenly started to fall apart. All ships, press the attack, Taesung ordered. No mercy. No prisoners unless they surrender immediately. Show them what happens when you threaten humanity. The battle became a massacre, not because humans were cruel, but because the Vorash had made this necessary. They had come to Earth with the intention of enslaving or exterminating humanity. They had murdered children, destroyed homes, threatened an entire species with extinction. Now they were learning that extinction was a two-way street. Colonel Jamin, watching from Earth, saw the tactical displays showing the battle. He thought about the soldiers he'd lost defending Beijing. He thought about the civilians who had died in their homes when the Vorash bombed population centers. He thought about what the galaxy would say about humanity after this day, and he realized he didn't care what the galaxy thought. The galaxy needed to learn this lesson. Humanity would do anything, sacrifice anything, become anything necessary to protect Earth. If that made them monsters in alien eyes, so be it. Better to be a living monster than a dead victim. The Battle of Jupiter ended with total human victory. The Vorash fleet was destroyed. Those who surrendered were taken prisoner. Those who fought to the end died in their ships, and humanity sent a message to every corner of the galaxy. Earth was no longer a target. It was a warning: touch us and we'll erase you from existence. 3 months after the first attack, the war ended. Not with negotiations or treaties, but with the complete annihilation of the Vorash military presence in human space. The alien species that had come to conquer Earth learned the hardest lesson in the galaxy: never underestimate humanity. Admiral Tae-sung stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching as the last Vorash ship attempted to flee toward the edge of the solar system. It was a small vessel, probably a scout or courier, trying to escape to warn other Vorash forces about what had happened here. Let it go, someone suggested. It's just one ship. Tae-sung shook his head. No, hunt it down. Lieutenant Sang-ho's voice came through the communication system. Already on it, Admiral. This one's not getting away. True to his word, Sang-ho's fighter squadron intercepted the fleeing ship within an hour. They disabled its engines with precise shots, then boarded it. The crew surrendered immediately, knowing that resistance meant death. The last Vorash military vessel in the solar system was captured. The war, for all practical purposes, was over, but humanity wasn't finished. On Earth, Colonel Jamin oversaw the processing of Vorash prisoners. Thousands of alien soldiers had surrendered during the final battles, and now they sat in detention facilities, waiting to learn their fate. Jamin walked through one of the facilities, studying the defeated aliens. They looked smaller now without their armor and weapons. They looked scared. He felt a flicker of something that might have been pity. But then he remembered the first days of the war, the burning stations, the destroyed colony ship, the 15,000 dead. What happens to us? One Vorash asked in halting English. They had been learning the language, knowing their lives depended on understanding their captors. That depends on you, Jamin said. You fought us, you lost. But you're still alive, which is more mercy than you showed our people. You have a choice now. You can work with us, help us understand your technology and your people, or you can remain prisoners forever. Choose. Most chose cooperation. They had seen what happened to those who continued to resist humanity. And they had come to understand something important. Humans weren't monsters. They were just done being victims. Admiral Tae-sung called a meeting of all senior commanders. Captain Bora, Lieutenant Sang-ho, General Kyung-soo, Dr. Hai-wan, Engineer Mi-sun, Colonel Jamin, and Ambassador Yoonji gathered in the conference room of the Retribution. The Vorash are defeated, Tae-sung began. Their fleet is destroyed, their ground forces captured or eliminated. But we need to decide what comes next. We need to find their homeworld, Bora said immediately. Make sure they never threaten us again. And do what? Yoonji asked. Bomb their planet? Kill their civilians? Become what they are? No, Tae-sung said firmly. We don't attack civilians. We're not them, but we do need to send a message. To the Vorash and to every other species out there, Earth is not to be trifled with. I have an idea, Dr. Hai-wan said. She activated a holographic display showing a complex device. This is what I've been working on. A broadcast system using Vorash communication technology. It can send a message to every Vorash world, every Vorash ship, everywhere they have receivers. What kind of message? Kyung-soo asked. A warning, Hee-won said. And a lesson. The broadcast was prepared over the next week. It would be transmitted simultaneously to every corner of Vorash space. It would reach their homeworld, their colonies, their fleets scattered across the galaxy, and it would tell them exactly what had happened when they attacked Earth. Ambassador Yoonji wrote the message, choosing each word carefully. This wasn't just for the Vorash. It was for every species that might be listening. The day of the broadcast, the entire human fleet gathered in Earth orbit. It was a show of force, a demonstration of what humanity had built in just 3 months of total war. 50 warships, hundreds of fighters, technology that blended human innovation with captured alien systems. Yoonji stood before the cameras, Earth hanging in space behind her, the fleet arrayed around her like a crown of stars. "People of the Vorish Collective," she began. "3 months ago, your leaders sent a fleet to Earth. They came in disguise, pretending to want peace while planning conquest. They murdered 15,000 of our people in their first attack. They threatened to enslave our entire species. They believed we would surrender because they had superior technology." She paused, letting the words sink in across light years of space. "They were wrong. We fought back. We adapted. We learned. We turned your technology against you, and we destroyed your fleet. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon you sent against us is now wreckage or in our possession." The camera view changed, showing the captured Vorash vessels, the debris fields, the human ships flying victorious through space that the Vorash had thought they would conquer. "But this message is not just for the Vorash," Yoonji continued. "This is for every species in the galaxy. Humanity sought peace. We wanted to join the galactic community as friends. The Vorash answered with treachery and violence. This is the result." Admiral Tae-sung appeared on screen next. "To any species considering Earth as a target, learn from the Vorash mistake. We are not easy prey. We are not primitive. We are human. And when you threaten our home, we become the most dangerous thing in the galaxy." Captain Bora spoke next. "We will pursue any threat to Earth to the ends of space. We will not stop. We will not negotiate. We will destroy you," Lieutenant Sang-ho added his voice. "Your technology means nothing if you lack the will to use it properly. We took your advantages and made them ours. We learned faster than you could adapt." Dr. Hee-won's segment showed her laboratory filled with weapons and devices. "We understand your technology now. We can replicate it, improve it, and deploy it, and we will do so to defend our world against any threat." Colonel Jaemin appeared, standing in front of the Vorash prisoners. "These are your soldiers. They attacked our cities. They killed our people, and they surrendered when they realized they could not win. They are alive because we chose mercy. Do not mistake mercy for weakness." Finally, General Kyung-soo delivered the closing message. "Earth is no longer an isolated world. We are now a spacefaring species with the means and will to defend ourselves. We do not see conflict, but if you bring war to our doorstep, we will finish it. We will erase you. This is not a threat. This is a promise." The broadcast ended with a simple image: Earth, beautiful and blue, surrounded by humanity's fleet, and beneath it words in every language humanity spoke and every language the Vorash understood. "We wanted peace. You brought war. You have learned the consequences." The message spread across the galaxy at the speed of light, passed from system to system through relay stations. Within months, every major species knew about Earth and humanity. They knew about the Vorash fleet that had been destroyed. They knew about the species that had gone from technological inferiors to military equals in a matter of weeks. The galactic community's reaction was mixed. Some species admired humanity's resilience. Others feared it. Many decided that Earth was a planet best left alone. On Earth, life began to return to something like normal. The orbital stations were rebuilt, better than before. The colony program resumed, with new ships equipped with both human and adapted Vorash technology. Cities damaged in the fighting were reconstructed, but humanity had changed. They had learned that the universe was not a friendly place, that peace could be shattered in an instant, that survival sometimes required becoming something harder than you wanted to be. Admiral Tae-sung retired from active duty, becoming an advisor to Earth's new Space Defense Force. Captain Bora took command of the exploration fleet, leading humanity's expansion into the stars. Lieutenant Sang-ho trained the next generation of pilots, making sure they would be ready if another threat emerged. Dr. Hye-won and engineer Mi-sun continued their work, always improving, always innovating, always preparing for the next challenge. Colonel Jae-min reorganized the ground forces, incorporating lessons learned from fighting the Vorash. Ambassador Yoonji became Earth's voice to the galaxy, conducting first contact with new species with a mixture of openness and caution. She always made sure that everyone understood. Humanity wanted peace, but humanity would never again be caught unprepared. The Vorash collective never recovered from their defeat. Their military was shattered, their confidence broken, They became a cautionary tale told across the galaxy, the species that attacked Earth and ceased to exist as a power. Years later, a young alien student studying at a galactic university asked her human classmate about the war. "Were you really as ruthless as the stories say? Did you really show no mercy?" The human thought about it carefully. "We showed the mercy we could afford," she said. "We let prisoners live. We didn't pursue the Vorash to their homeworld. We didn't wipe them out completely, though we could have. But we also did what was necessary to protect our home. When someone threatens everything you love, you don't think about being kind. You think about surviving." "And would you do it again?" the alien asked. If someone attacked Earth, the human's eyes hardened, and for a moment, the alien could see the same look that Vorash soldiers had seen in the eyes of human warriors. "Yes, every time. Without hesitation. Because that's what it means to be human.